She didn't mean to crash into Earth. She didn't even mean to land. But when the pulsar net over Geru 6 locked onto her stolen scout vessel, it was either dive into the nearest wormhole or be dragged back to a ceremonial collar. She picked the wormhole and ended up in an atmospheric freefall, screaming across Earth's sky like a meteor with a bad attitude and worse brakes. Aerian smashed through a dense forest canopy, her pod tumbling end over end until it finally lodged sideways between two granite boulders. She coughed violently, silver blood trickling from her lip. Not from injury, just stress. She was 25 rotations old and already being hunted for defying her species' sacred law. Back on Kale-Tur Prime, every female of her age had already fulfilled the mating mandate. Aerian, however, had kicked the ceremonial consort in his sensory glands and stolen a ship. As the daughter of High Matron Zelira, it was considered a scandal of galactic proportions. She just called it survival. The hatch hissed open, letting in the scent of moss, iron-rich soil, and a strange buzzing atmosphere. Earth was, oddly quiet. No scent of pheromone warfields. No ambient mating chants. No drone flies monitoring her ovulation rate. It was beautiful. She dragged herself out, covered in bark dust and shame, her sleek amethyst skin catching the filtered sunbeams. She'd never felt sunlight without a UV modulator before. It was warm. Too warm. She peeled off the outer shell of her suit and took one shaky breath. And screamed. There was a human. He wasn't large by Kale-Tur standards, but the way he stood there, shovel in hand, mud-streaked and shirtless in the middle of what appeared to be a small farm, made her heart slam against her inner thorax. "Oh hell," he muttered, dropping the shovel. Did a cosplayer just fall from the sky? "I'm not a cosplayer," she shouted back, lifting a branch like a weapon. They stared at each other, both poised like wild things. She saw no weapons on him. He saw a scared, barely clothed alien woman waving a stick. Eventually, he raised both hands. Okay. I come in peace. Are you hurt? Why would you help me?" she asked, breathless. He shrugged. "You crashed into my property. Be a pretty lousy host if I didn't, right?" His name was Jake. He was 30, lived off-grid, and had a past he didn't talk about. Not that she asked at first. She was too busy hiding her heat signatures and disabling tracking beacons. Jake showed her how to blend in, lent her clothes, though his oversized flannel drowned her. He let her stay in the shed, and she didn't complain. Earth food was weird, but it didn't kill her. Her body adapted faster than expected. She told him she was an off-world fugitive. Not why. He didn't press. But every time she caught him looking at her when he thought she wasn't watching, she saw the question burning in his eyes. The nights got colder. The shed creaked. One evening, during a particularly sharp windstorm, she found herself knocking at his cabin door. He opened it without a word and handed her a blanket. "You don't talk much," she said, curled on the couch. "Neither do you." "I'm hiding." He nodded. "Me too." That night, something shifted. Not with touch. Not yet. But with silence. He told her about the war. Not a galactic one. A human one. He'd lost people. Got tired of obeying orders that didn't protect anyone. He bought land and left everything behind. She found herself talking too about the matrons, the ceremony, the branding, the way they treat mating as transaction and power. "Sounds like hell," Jake said. "It is. But a pretty one." They started laughing together. A little at first. Then more. She discovered he had a crooked smile when he teased her about using tools wrong. He discovered she snorted when something really amused her. She had claws. He didn't mind. He had scars. She traced them once, without asking why. He didn't flinch. It was easy. Until the beacon activated. It was a high-pitched pulse that vibrated through her skull at 2 a.m. Her pod, hidden under moss and metal scraps, had gone dormant. Now it blinked, red and demanding. The Kale-Tur found her. She scrambled into the forest, Jake trailing her with a flashlight. "What's going on?" he asked. "They're coming." "Who?" "My mother's hunters." "Then we run." "You don't understand," she said, turning to face him. They don't take prisoners. Not me. Not witnesses. His jaw tensed. Then I guess I better be more than a witness. She didn't cry. Not until he picked up his rifle and stood in front of her pod. That night, she realized she wasn't running from Kaltur law anymore. She was running toward something. Someone. A human. And the galaxy had no idea what it just lost. Or what it was about to face. Because Jake wasn't done fighting. And Aerian wasn't going back without a war. Aerian didn't sleep that night. Neither did Jake. The pod pulsed steadily beneath the ground, casting a faint glow that reminded her of everything she tried to bury: duty, punishment, the razor-tongued matrons who'd once praised her composure and now sent hunters to drag her home in chains. Jake dug a trench around the pod by flashlight. She watched him from a distance, arms folded tight, every instinct screaming at her to leave. To vanish again. But something rooted her. Not just fear. Him. He didn't ask questions he had no right to. Didn't try to claim her. And somehow, that made her want to stay more than any vow or law ever had. Why help me? She asked as he layered moss over the beacon shell. He didn't stop working. Because you'd do it for someone else. Aerian blinked. You don't know that. Doesn't matter. I do. By morning, she had a plan. Crude, dangerous, maybe even stupid, but it was hers. She'd overload the pod's core, scramble its signal, and create a false trail. It would only buy them a day or two. But Jake had another idea. They'll land nearby, he said. Looking for signs of heat and propulsion. What if they find something else instead? He drew out a plan on the dirt floor of the shed. Terrain lines. River bends. Tree cover. Her eyes widened. You want to ambush them? No. I want to outsmart them. She stared at the lines. You've done this before. I've hunted things bigger than aliens, he said with a small smile. And dumber. She laughed despite herself. Over the next hours, they built. Rigged decoys. Dug shallow trenches. Redirected power from the pod to make it look like it had crashed again, somewhere miles away. Aerian modified her signal implant to project a looped ping. Then they waited. Aerian sat cross-legged in the grass, the human night sky above her like a blanket of secrets. Jake joined her, holding a chipped mug of something that smelled sharp and bitter. What is that? She asked. Whiskey. She took a cautious sip. Her face scrunched. It tastes like scorched tree bark. He grinned. Yeah. It's an acquired taste. Humans are insane. You're just figuring that out? She exhaled slowly. No. I figured that out the minute you offered me your bed and slept on the floor. He shrugged. Didn't want to get clawed. The silence that followed was not awkward. It was heavy with something else. Not tension. Not even attraction. It was possibility. What happens after this? He asked. You mean if we survive? He nodded. I don't know, she said. Maybe I find a way to blend in. Change my DNA pattern. Stay on Earth. And us. The word hung there. She didn't answer. Because the sky lit up. A column of light struck a clearing 3 clicks west. The air hummed with gravity disruptors. Aerian stood instantly. They're here. Jake didn't hesitate. We move. He slung the modified rifle over his back. She activated the scatter pulse she'd hidden beneath a thicket. The beacon jumped. Far away, they heard the Kaltur ship lower into a glide. They'll follow the false trail, she said. We have hours. We make them count. They didn't waste time. They traveled through creek beds and under thick tree cover. The plan wasn't to fight. It was to lead them farther and farther from the only true target, her. But Kaltur hunters weren't fools. They split into search pairs. Their biosuits glowed like ghost fire. Aerian cursed under her breath. Jake laid a hand on her shoulder. Trust me. I barely trust myself. Then trust this. He handed her a small switch. When I say go, press it. Jake, what? He darted forward before she could finish. Shadows swallowed him. Her hand trembled around the switch. Moments later, a blast shook the ground. Smoke. Sparks. then shouting in Kaltur dialect, chaotic and furious. She ran. Found Jake crouched behind a downed log, bleeding from the arm but grinning like a madman. They didn't expect fireworks, he panted. Next pulse goes in 60 seconds. We have to run. She didn't argue. She grabbed his good arm and pulled. They moved like lightning, dodging sonic darts and energy bolts. Trees exploded around them. Aerian thought her lungs might burst. And still, Jake smiled. Is this fun for you? She yelled. Only when I'm not dead yet. They dove into a rock crevice just as the second pulse detonated. The forest lit up in blue flame. Aerian couldn't hear. Her ears rang. Jake's voice was distant. But she saw his lips form the words, they bought it. Then he passed out. She held him through the night, ears tuned for drones. None came. By dawn, they were safe. For now. But something deeper had shifted. Not just between them. Within her. For the first time, Aerian didn't feel like a fugitive. She felt like someone worth fighting for. And someone ready to fight back. Even if it meant war. Even if it meant staying. Because running from her planet was easy. Running from a human like Jake. That was impossible. Jake didn't wake for hours. When he finally groaned and stirred, Aerian had already stitched the gash on his arm with a sterilized fishing hook and human thread, wrapped it tight, and buried the last of the weapons cache he'd hidden beneath the floorboards. You're awake, she said, not looking up. Jake blinked at the stone ceiling of the cave. Barely. Did we win? No one wins yet. He sat up slowly. They gone. For now. But they left a beacon drone. I crushed it. Jake nodded, reached for his water flask, and hissed when his shoulder protested. Remind me not to fight aliens without armor. She cracked the faintest smile. You didn't fight. You distracted. Loudly. You're welcome. For 2 days, they moved camp again. Farther north. The snow came earlier this year, and Aerian wasn't built for it. Jake crafted her thermal wraps from salvaged blankets and hunting gear. She built a motion scanner from her last functioning shard of tech. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were preparing. Jake asked the question on the third night. Do you think they'll ever stop coming for you? She looked at the fire. No. So what's the endgame? She hesitated. There wasn't one. I just wanted to be free. Not good enough anymore, is it? No. That night, she accessed her pod's memory core. Hidden deep in its matrix was a sequence encrypted coordinates to a satellite gate used only by the Kaltur royal bloodline. Her bloodline. Jake watched her hands tremble as she decrypted it. What is that? My only way back. He stared at her. You're going back. No. I'm going there. She pointed to the map. It's a relay station. If I can get to it, I can send a pulse that disables the blood trace signal they use to track me. It'll burn out my DNA from their registry. Jake raised an eyebrow. Sounds like a fancy suicide switch. It's more elegant than a bullet. He touched her hand. You don't need to erase who you are to be free. I do if I want to stay with you. He didn't respond. Just held her hand a little tighter. They began planning the route. The relay station was hidden in orbit above Earth's moon. Reachable only by leap transport. And Aerian's pod. It had one last jump left in it if cannibalized correctly. She worked through the night. Jake wired the cabin with false power surges to throw off Kaltur scans. They weren't lovers, not yet. But every gesture between them felt closer to an unspoken vow. She trusted him with her species' secrets. He trusted her with his life. On the fourth day, the snowstorm hit. Whiteout conditions, freezing winds, visibility near zero. Jake collapsed near the edge of the ravine while checking perimeter traps. Aerian dragged him back. She lay beside him, arms wrapped around his chest, her core temperature barely holding. His lips were blue. He whispered, "Why'd you come after me?" "Because no one else ever did for me." He looked at her. "I don't want you to go. I'm not going anywhere." "You're lying." She couldn't deny it. When the storm passed, she had everything ready. One jump. One burst. One shot at disappearing forever from the matron's database. Jake stood at the edge of the clearing, rifle slung, watching her load the pod core. "You don't have to prove anything," he said. "Not to them. Not to me." She turned, voice soft. "I know. But I want to choose this. Not be hunted into it." He reached into his coat and pulled out something small, a rusted, earth-made key on a leather string. "My father gave me this when I left the army. Said, this unlocks nothing. Just reminds you not everything has to." She took it carefully. "Your people are strange." He smirked. "You love that." She did. The pod flared once, humming. Jake stepped back. "If you go," he said, "I'll wait. However long it takes. I'm coming back. Promise." She kissed him. Then vanished in a burst of blue light. In orbit, inside the forgotten shell of a KLTUR relay station, Aerian faced her old world. The systems still recognized her blood. She accessed the matron registry. Her name blinked. Tagged. Hunted. She overrode it. Burned the code. Her name faded. The system warned her, irreversible. She accepted. Outside the viewport, Earth shimmered like a promise. She turned back toward it. No longer anyone's mate. No longer property. Just Aerian. And she was coming home. 3 weeks passed before anyone saw a strange light in the sky again. Jake stood outside his cabin, rifle slung over his shoulder, boots sunk in half-frozen mud. The fire pit crackled behind him, untouched. He hadn't lit it since she left. The forest was too quiet without her. Each night he listened for the buzz of KLTUR drones, the hum of a pod's core, even her half-muttered alien curses when she stubbed her toe. But there was nothing, just wind and snow and the memory of a kiss that still lived behind his ribs like a burn mark. Then came the light. A soft, violet flare against the dusk horizon. Silent. Controlled. Not like the crash. Jake didn't run. He waited. And from the forest's edge, between trees she had once used for cover, Aerian emerged. Same eyes. Same strength. But something was different. She walked like someone who belonged. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. She stepped up to him, pulled something from around her neck. It was his key, now wrapped in silver thread. "I burned my name," she said. "But I kept this." Jake exhaled a laugh, half-choked. "You really came back. I told you I would." "What are you now?" he asked quietly. She thought for a moment. Free. They didn't rush into the cabin. Didn't tumble into each other like some dramatic ending. Instead, they sat on the front porch, side by side, wrapped in an old blanket. She told him how the relay station nearly collapsed. How the system resisted her override. How the station's AI tried to classify her as a rogue class. How she won. Jake listened. She asked about the land. The weather. If he'd finished the cellar. He had. They built a life slowly, not from fantasy but from wood, stone, and second chances. Over time, others came. Not KLTUR. Other fugitives. Other survivors. Some human. Some not. They didn't ask who was in charge. They just followed the woman who once fled her planet to escape a fate she never chose, and the man who gave her a reason to return. She became a myth in the off-world whispers. The KLTUR never confirmed her death. But they stopped hunting. Because sometimes, when a name is erased from the system, it becomes harder to find than someone who died. And far more dangerous. One day, sitting beside the river, Aerian asked Jake, was it worth it? The pain, the waiting, the danger. He leaned back in the grass. Freedom always is. But you know what's rarer than freedom? She shook her head. Someone who's willing to fight for it, even when they're alone. Aerian smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. She'd come to Earth running from a prison made of rituals and bloodlines. She stayed because someone here saw her as more than a role to fill. He saw her. And in doing so, gave her the courage to see herself. Moral true freedom isn't just the absence of chains, it's having the strength to choose who you are, even when your whole world tells you otherwise. And love, the kind born in silence, fire, And trust doesn't rescue you. It reminds you you're worth rescuing. Asterisk.